Okay, so I use basically 70 denier UTC. You can use any denier or any brand you like. I just like this because it's splits very easily, the thread. Okay, so basically just dress your hook, tight wraps. So you don't want your material to slip, so I dress it quite tight. Leave my thread at the back. Now, my favorite Marabou is this big feathers with a lot of fluffy fibers like this. But lately we can't get proper Marabou, so you get these little blood quills. And what I usually do with this, I take one blood quill and I'll brush it back and I'll tie that in. Only problem I've got this blood quill here, this thin parts, they don't really move that nicely in the water. They tend to stuck and stay in position. They don't have that jellyfish movement, as they call it, in the water. So you can either use the back there, or you can really lift these up like that and just strip them off the feather. And yeah, that's about how much you're going to use. You don't really want a very thick tail on this, and I usually leave the tails long. Okay, if you're comfortable fishing it shorter, you can break the tail shorter. I usually fish it long because for the more attraction and the movement of the fly in the water. But if I do find that the fish is nipping on the fly and they don't commit, or I can't really hook onto them, I will tear and I will make the tail shorter. Okay, but yeah, I always start off with a nice long tail just for the movement of it. Another trick that I have, and the reason why I do it that way, is this fly, you want a nice thin body on it. You don't want a very thick body onto it. I find that if you put thick bodies onto them, they absorb a lot of water and they tend to sink faster, and it actually makes the fly quite heavy and the movement goes all ways and so on. So if you keep the body thin, they will actually stay in position, and also you'll get more of the hook out of them. I mean, you don't have to actually worry about covering the hook point with materials. Okay, and I just like the slick body on this. It just makes it quite nice. Right, and to get to that slick body, and the way I prepare my Marabou is I actually cut the front part, and I would cut it about there. Okay, and then I would take my thumb and index finger and use my nail. I don't know if you guys can see, and I would pull all the fluff off the fibers like that. I don't know if you can see. And I've got this fluff, and just put it aside because that is actually quite nice dubbing material for other flies. Not really dry flies because they do absorb water, but if you want to tie a little bit of dubbing that's very soft and you can actually dub very tightly, this material works quite nicely. And as you can see, as I pull these fibers off, I'm starting just to get a bare stem onto them. Okay, so if I twist this a little bit, I don't know if you can see, it's a little bit curly up, but it's quite bare stem. Right, and then I would measure it usually, and I would just cut it on the length, use my bead as the indicator, and just cut them so I can have a nice balanced fly. Okay, so I would put these, the end of this Marabou right to against the bead. Right, and just with a pinch wrap, just get that into, with about 3 of them, just to steady it. And just to anchor it a little bit more, I would take a wrap behind the tail, give it a nice pull, one around and another one, and that would actually lock in your tail very decently. And then I would just wrap forward to the bead just to clean this up a little bit. If you do have a little bit of fiber sticking out, don't worry about that. We can just snip them off with the scissors. Okay, so yes, there's your tail. If you do want to add a little bit of coloring on, you would obviously tie that in as well and just strip the fluff in, and you'll also get a nice smooth body like that. So the next step is I use small black wire just to protect the body of the fly, because I mean these trouts have got quite sharp teeth and they can tear your fly apart. I just cut it with the back of my scissors. And right, and also just to keep the balance of this fly, I kind of push this wire into the gap of the bead and just do 2 wraps just to keep it there. And I keep it on the side so I can actually tie it in smoothly. Alright, so the next step is, now you've got a choice. You can either split your thread, or you can make a nice dubbing loop and use a spinning tool to do it. I prefer to split my thread. If I can find my needle, there it is. But it's really up to you how you like to create your little brushes. Okay, split the thread, open it up, and when I prepare my dubbing, I actually make them nice and skinny and long, so I can just put them in and I don't have to fuff around with the dubbing to get it into position. So there you go, it's prepped and it's ready to be spinned. Okay, and I really spin this tight, so just give it a nice spin. Okay, so like you see, I made a nice little tight dubbing brush here, and when I tie it in, I just basically touching thread. And what I like about this dubbing is it doesn't ruffle, it doesn't actually go loose, it actually stays nice and tight, so you can just tie it in and get it in like that. Okay, right, so what I do with the wire, I like to go opposite. Doesn't matter, you can go anyway as long as you protect your, and I do about 6 wraps. I don't know, don't count my wraps. You just wrap it nice and even till you get to the front, helicopter that part off. Alright, now we're going to put a collar on this. I use 1 feather, and it's big feathers like these, I just use half a feather. So you're not going to blow your budget with CDC tying these flies. Alright, you can literally take, if you take a smaller feather or a more sparse one, you can just, like that. You can just use your fancy tool or your homemade tool, whatever you like, and just press this down and use the full feather. Or you can put 2 feathers on top of each other and you don't have to fuff around with the tool. Okay, so let me do that. I'm going to take 2 feathers, which is quite sparse or sparsely. Okay, just like that. Grab my, do you guys use these fancy tools or just normal clips? Oops.
Whichever.
Yeah. Okay, let me use this one because you just slide it in. Keep it nice. Give yourself some space to cut it. Usually I would use a long scissors for this. And when I cut it, I actually cut it quite close to the clip. Okay, so I've got like a millimeter of hair. That just makes it easier when you position it. Because if you cut it too long, you have to like, wrangle it in. So cut it as close as possible to the clip. When you put it in, it's in the right position and off you go. Alright, so I'm going to split my thread again. If you're not comfortable with splitting thread, make a double loop or a double thread loop and go for it. Okay. There's no position that I put in this. I'm going to spin it around anyway, so you can put it in. I'll just give you an example. I don't know if you guys can see. Should I lift it a little bit? Okay, so when I put that in now, when I loosen it, I've got my CDC actually quite short in, so I don't have to worry about the stem sticking out and bulking up your fly. Okay, a little bit so much. Okay, grab that, spin it, give it a good old spin. And I always start it slowly so you don't trap any of them. You get a nice little brush like that. Okay, and when I turn this, I always start off with a few turns till I got my CDC in, and only then I would start brushing it back. So I don't brush it on the thread, because that usually you pull your CDC out. Okay, so I would turn it and then brush it, because you also want to have it standing up a little bit like this. And I find if you brush that back and you hold it in, and it goes flat, too flat actually. Right, and just give it a nice couple of turns. Okay, right, so there you go. You've got the other thing. What you can also do is you can also add some CDC on the body. Take one half and add that. What I actually find with that is it traps too much bubbles in the fly itself. Alright, and that kind of spook fish a bit way. So adding just a collar, or you can put a little bit of CDC on the body of the fly. Okay, so what I also do is I tie a couple of blanks, like I said. So I would put this into my box, and I like to take my fly tying stuff to the water, and I would just add like any. So if I would add a collar here, I would just give it one, not even one wrap. I would just like hang it over and take the tag and just twist it around like twice, and then give it 1, 2, and just snip that part off. Immediately whip finish it. You can add a little bit super glue. I usually put a little bit of super glue here, but I did forget my super glue, and just 1, 2, and there you go. You've got a very nice thin little hot spot on there. Okay, super easy to tie, nothing tricky about this fly. It is, you can, like I said, you can tie it in many different colors, add collars to it. You can even try different color beads. Yeah, but this is the basic standard one that I tie, and it fishes really, really well.